We would like to express our deepest gratitude for your kindness and support. I thanked the attendees at my daughter's funeral. My daughter died at the young age of 27. She's had type 1 diabetes since she was a teenager, and her life was shorter than her doctor expected. I was trying hard to hold back my tears, and my 4-year-old granddaughter was playing with her head in the casket. I knew that my granddaughter would still not be able to accept that her mother had died, but because it was a funeral, I still scolded her for playing with the casket. However, what she said after that changed the situation drastically. I was surprised at what she said, but I realized something and I rushed out of the hall. This led to the revelation of the truth behind my daughter's death. My name is Rose. I am a 62-year-old grandmother. I live with my daughter and her family, and our circumstances are a little different than most families. Claire, you haven't had your insulin yet, have you? Not yet, but I'm feeling better today. Be careful. You often get sicker even when you say that. Come on, give me your thigh. My daughter has been staying in bed because she is sick, and her husband and I have been taking care of her. The name of her disease is type 1 diabetes. Diabetes is often thought of as a disease caused by lifestyle habits, such as eating too many sweets, but apparently there are different types of diabetes, and my daughter's disease doesn't fit into that category. The doctors were not sure what was causing my daughter's illness, but one thing that I can say for sure is that she has to inject insulin. I was in charge of her injections, and I do it 4 or 5 times a day, and I don't inject only in the thighs, but also in the stomach and shoulders. I try to rotate the injection sites, but I can never get used to the sensation of sticking a sharp needle into my only daughter. Every time I see my daughter in pain from the injections, I wonder if I had her earlier in life, maybe she wouldn't have gotten sick like this. I got pregnant with my daughter when I was 35, and I got divorced. I raised her by myself after that, and she developed type 1 diabetes when she was still a teenager. When my daughter wanted to get married, I didn't object to it at all, partly because I'd done nothing but make her feel lonely and go through a hard time. I'm home, Rose. I went to pick up Ruby. Grandma! My daughter and her husband, Jackson, had a baby girl. My daughter was at risk due to her disease, but she was willing to take the risk and gave birth to my granddaughter, Ruby. She turns 4 this year, and she has been living a life free from disease. My teacher brought her doggy to my kindergarten class today. Oh, you saw it again? My teacher said that her doggy died at home yesterday. Her doggy said that she loved my teacher. My granddaughter is a normal girl, but she has one ability that sets her apart from the rest. She can actually sense the thoughts and feelings of animals and people who have just passed away. At first, I was dismissing it as just an imagination of a small child, but as I heard similar stories over and over again, I realized that she can really sense the feelings of deceased animals and people. I thought it was a little creepy, but she always seemed to sense only the thoughts of the kind spirits, and she has never suffered any damage because of this ability. I adored my granddaughter, who is just a really energetic and cheerful girl apart from that, as a grandmother. However, every family has 1 or 2 things that can go wrong, and ours was no exception. Rose, may I have a word with you? That for me was my son-in-law, Jackson. I've told you to put the used injection in a proper bag and give it to me, haven't I? Well, I was going to do that later. What did you say? Are you making excuses? I had a little trouble with my son-in-law. He is a pharmacist, and my daughter's illness was the reason why he met her. He is letting me live in his home, but he is a bit overbearing towards me. I know that he is considering my daughter's condition and safety for my granddaughter as a medicine expert, but I have a feeling that those words were being used as an excuse to vent his usual exasperation rather than as rebuke. Please be careful next time. When he finishes saying all that, he sighs deeply and leaves. I know that I just need to do better, but I don't like the sigh, as if he is disappointed. I'm sorry, Mom. I don't think Jackson means to offend you. I know. It's my fault for not being careful. My sick daughter says so, but I feel a little bit suffocated, being under one roof with my son-in-law. Then one day, Rose, can I have a word with you? I was a little defensive when my son-in-law called me out with the same remarks as usual. However, it wasn't a scolding that day. I already told Claire, but I have to go out of the province for a while starting tomorrow. The injections you have aren't enough, so I'll give you more. I received the injectable medicines from my son-in-law, but I thought that this whole exchange was a little bit strange. You usually tell me to pick them up at the hospital, or you give them to me along with the prescription, but you're giving me just the injections this time? My son-in-law, who is a pharmacist, had thorough control over the medications my daughter took. Even if I had a prescription from the hospital, let alone over-the-counter medications, he would not be comfortable unless he had me, who is administering the medicine, check it. I'm busy this time, so you don't have to check the medicine, but please put the used injections in a proper bag and leave them in my room, so Ruby won't touch them. Injections are a dangerous commodity, so please keep them under control. I understand. I took the medications from my son-in-law and made sure to administer well as I was told. However, when I think back, I wonder if things would have been different if I had pursued the discomfort more at the time. A few days after my son-in-law left the house, my daughter's condition began to worsen day by day. At first, I thought she was just not feeling well, but gradually, she became unable to even get out of bed, and I decided to discuss with my son-in-law. Jackson, Claire doesn't seem to be feeling well. What should I do? Please calm down. Are you administering the medications I gave you properly? Yes, I'm doing as you told me. I still remember that there was a short pause before my son-in-law, who was on the other end of the phone, answered. Okay, then please go to the big hospital instead of a clinic that we usually go to. I'll call them myself, and they'll put you right through. I took my daughter to a remote university hospital, just as my son-in-law told me to do. However, my daughter's condition was far more serious than I had thought, and the doctor told me that she had to be admitted to the hospital urgently. Of course, I told the doctor about my daughter's injections, but he told me that if the pharmacist gave me instructions, then I should follow them. I was giving my daughter the usual injections, with the hope that she would get better soon. However, her condition worsened over the next few days, and she began to spend most of the day sleeping. "Mommy, are you in pain?" "I'm okay. I'll get better soon. Let's go play again." I watched from the sidelines as my daughter and granddaughter conversed, but that was the last time I heard her talk. In the middle of the night, the weakening of my daughter's body reached a dangerous level, and she never recovered from there, and passed away at the age of 27. I cried with my shoulders shaking, while I was holding my granddaughter. I became emotionally unstable, and cried my eyes out whenever I remembered Claire unexpectedly. It seemed that the hospital staff called my son-in-law, and I was told that he changed his schedules, and he would come back here in a few days. I regretted so intensely that I had given birth to my daughter, with a body that could not defeat the disease, and I began to feel that I could not face my son-in-law, my granddaughter, and my daughter. However, my granddaughter was always by my side, supporting me in my grief, even though she is very young. A few days after my daughter's death, I was calming down little by little, and I was busy preparing for my daughter's funeral. "We would like to express our deepest gratitude for your kindness and support." Many people attended my daughter's funeral. Unfortunately, my son-in-law could not make it to the funeral, but even though he was far away, he provided all kinds of support, including handling funeral arrangements. With the help of those around me, I was able to hold my daughter's funeral without any problems. After the speeches were over, as the attendees were saying their final goodbyes to my daughter, I looked at my granddaughter, and she had stuck her head into the casket that contained my daughter. I wondered if she was playing because she was bored, or maybe she couldn't understand yet that her mother was dead, but I pulled my granddaughter from the casket anyway. "Ruby, say bye to your mommy." But my granddaughter just stared at the casket with a confused face, and she didn't seem sad. Every time I saw my granddaughter like that, I couldn't help but feel sorry for my daughter, who passed away leaving behind such a young child. However, my granddaughter acted quite differently than I expected. "Mommy is here." She pointed toward the casket. "No, Ruby. Your mommy is." "No, Mommy said that she was stung by a poisonous needle." I remembered her special ability then. "Mommy said that she didn't die of a disease, but she died from a poison." Others thought her words as delusional, but not me. "Ruby, where did your mommy say that she was stung with a poisonous needle?" She pointed to her thigh, stomach, and shoulder. I realized something, and I rushed out of the hall, even though the funeral wasn't finished yet. I knew that it was a preposterous thing to do, but if I missed this chance, I knew that my daughter's regret would never be cleared. So I ran off to a certain place. That certain place was our house. A figure slowly unlocked the front door and walked into the room. "You are back late, Jackson." "Or Rose. You scared me." I was waiting for him in his room. "Has Claire's funeral already finished?" "I slipped out, because I've got some things to do." I showed him the used injections that I had left in his room. "Ruby said that Claire was stung by a poisonous needle. I can't think of anything else but the medicines you prepared for Claire." His mouth was smiling cheerfully as usual, but his eyes were staring at me for sure. Rose, you must be a little tired to take a child's word for it like that. I'll take it over from here, so please give me the injections. I will if the police says that you are innocent. The police, who had been waiting outside the house, entered our house at that moment. My son-in-law tried to escape in a panic, but he was blocked by the police and he was unable to move. I'd like to talk to you about your wife's case, and I was wondering if you would be willing to accompany me voluntarily? I thought that his expression clouded, and then he broke the window and ran outside. However, the police captured him eventually and put him in a police car. Damn! If it weren't for you, it would have been a perfect crime. He was spitting those words at me as I saw him off in the police car. My prediction was correct, and my son-in-law was officially arrested on suspicion of murder. He was indicted, and I was allowed to visit with him after he was arrested. How's it going? Have you learned your lesson? How could you do this to me? You ruined everything, bitch. The interrogation revealed that he had mixed a poison with injection medication that my daughter took, and the used needles became the solid evidence. The motive was his infidelity. After his daughter was born, his freedom was gone, and his private life was also taken away because he had to take care of his sick wife. He was not satisfied with his life like that, so he kept having an affair. The reason why he was gone for a while this time was because he went for a trip with his lover. Besides, he thought that it would be easier to prove his innocence if I injected the poison to my daughter. The poison is mildly toxic, but if it remains in the body, it becomes dangerous. And my son-in-law, who is a pharmacist, mixed his own potions. He thought that he didn't have to do anything with the dead body because it would be cremated anyway, and all that was left was to retrieve the used injection medicines, and his innocence would be proven. He also thought that if he left the country, he could escape from raising the child as well. I'm sure that nobody wants a woman who's going to die soon, but I like my freedom in the first place. Why would I have to take care of a dying woman and her daughter? I trembled with anger when I heard his extremely selfish motives, but I was firmly aware that I was not the one to judge this man. You don't even deserve to be a human being before you are a parent or a husband. Confess all your sins and receive judgment properly. That's how you pay for your selfishness. My son-in-law kept glaring at me, but as long as the evidence was in place and the prosecution was set, it was almost the same as that he has lost everything he had built up. As a result, he was sentenced to life in prison. When this matter was settling down, my granddaughter and I visited my daughter's grave again. I told my daughter in front of her grave about what had been going on with us, and also about what happened to her ex-husband, and we offered her some flowers. I closed my eyes, and I mourned my daughter who passed away at the young age of 27, and I wished her to rest in peace. After we came home, my granddaughter was looking for something in the closet. What are you doing? Mommy said to open this when we get home. The thing that my granddaughter pulled out of the closet was an aluminum can as big as her two hands. It said to Ruby on its surface in my daughter's handwriting. The contents were a series of DVDs, all of which were video letters from my daughter to my granddaughter. My daughter didn't leave the messages only for her daughter's birthdays every year, but also for when her daughter is lonely, when she is having a hard time, when she is anxious, and when she does her best, etc. In the first DVD, she was talking about herself who is going to die before me, and her intention to entrust her daughter to me, not her husband. I'm sure that somewhere along the way, my daughter must have sensed that she wouldn't be able to watch her own child grow up, and she was desperate to leave something behind. I'm going to follow my daughter's example and do everything I can to help this girl. Even though I'm 62 years old, I'm taking care of my granddaughter as if she is my own daughter, and we are living peacefully.